Talk Radio 702.
Now, Mike, your journey.
Yes, we had a few rough
It's
parts.
awe-inspiring. 60 days, 12 countries, 17,800 kilometres. 2 delightful silver-haired oldies in a silver Rolls-Royce. Join us in the journey of the Silver Spirit from Cape Town to Cairo and on to London. It's the ride of a lifetime.
Travelling across Africa is difficult enough, but undertaking it in a 1981 Rolls-Royce is an astonishing feat. And what's even more remarkable is that the daring couple who did it are in their 70s.
I'm really excited as I'm about to meet Mike and Jeanette van Ginkel to get a first-hand account of their Silver Spirit adventure that took them from Cape Town to Cairo and then on to London.
Jeanette, who first brought up the idea of driving a Rolls-Royce across Africa and then on to London?
Well, it was my 70th birthday, and the children and my nephews had given us a trip to Zanzibar as a birthday present. And on the way back, we had a 3-hour trip, which is really nothing. Michael just said, "This is the last time I'm going to fly. I've had enough. I've been flying in the cockpit, and I'm not prepared to be a passenger. I just don't enjoy it anymore."
Mike, why don't you want to be a passenger? This worries me a bit, since you've been in aviation. Is it too dangerous?
It's a bit difficult. After spending more than 50 years in the sharp end of an aeroplane, it's not that I don't trust the pilots or anything like that, but I just don't feel comfortable as a passenger. I'd rather be in control of the aircraft.
If you think Mike and Jeanette are a bit casual about their accomplishment, then you'll soon understand why. They've both had successful flying careers and a marriage spanning 5 decades. And amongst their many achievements is that they won the State President's Air Race in 1969 and 1972 together as a team. Mike grew up in East London in South Africa, joined the South African Air Force, and later started his own flying training school in George, where he taught his new wife Jeanette to fly. And then she went on to become the first licensed hot air balloon pilot in the country. Jeanette also represented South Africa in the World Championships and then became a balloon instructor and international eventing judge. And now, since 1970, Jeanette runs a highly successful interior decorating business in Johannesburg.
That is absolutely beautiful. Then there's also, that's the orange.
Do you have children?
Yes, we have 3.
3 children.
Our daughter's the eldest, and we have 2 sons. They're both pilots overseas. And our 2 sons kept on saying, "You're really going to do it?" I said, "Of course we are." "Well, what are you going to use for money?" I said, "Well, we've both got skin disease." And they said, "What's that?" I said, "Spend kids' inheritance now."
So can I ask you then how much a trip like this would cost?
Over $1 million.
Yeah, that's a good answer.
I didn't say rands, euros, pounds. I just said over $1 million.
What's he like as a passenger in the car?
No, he's fine.
Is he fine?
I'm a bad passenger because I love driving. And that's why we had so many fights going up Africa, because I wanted to drive every day and he wanted to drive every day.
I think while Jeanette says there's so many fights, we didn't. We shared the driving 50-50. And I must say that I took the hard, tough roads, the real bad roads, and I could handle them a little bit better than Jeanette could. But Jeanette was fantastic in the heavy traffic of Cairo, Alexandria, Khartoum, these places. Addis Ababa is bad. She was wonderful.
On the wrong side of the road.
On the wrong side of the road a lot of the time, in terrible traffic, sticking to our lead car. Jeanette used to be about that far away, which gave me, but she was marvelous at it. So she did the difficult parts in the traffic, and I did the rough roads part.
Mike, you obviously don't undertake something like this on your own. There's a whole team that you have to assemble. So tell us about that.
Roger Pierce is a man who has done this plenty of times from South Africa to Cairo. So we went and sought our advice with him.
And if anyone were to give the thumbs up to a trip like this, it would be Roger Pierce, owner of MG Workshop, chairman of Motorsport South Africa and travel adventurer extraordinaire. So what did Roger make of Mike?
Yes, well, one day working away in the workshop, this elderly gentleman arrived and said, are you the bloke who drove up to Cairo in a Mini? I said, yes. He said, well, I'd like to do the same thing, please. And he's not a young man, as you know. And I said, so, what would you like to do this? And he said, well, I'll show you outside.
And I had the Rolls Royce with me. And he said, please, can you leave the car with me for 2 days?
And we discovered it was actually quite a suitable motor car.
And he said, Mike, I think the car will do it.
And also, you need a certain amount of fitness.
But I'm not so sure about you.
He was absolutely determined, more so Jeanette.
I think somebody must always have something to look forward to. I think that's what makes happiness.
She came to see me one day and she said, if that old fart tries to back out of this, do not let him. She said, I'm tired of him sitting around at home doing nothing all day.
So Roger became our team leader.
When it comes to the planning of something like this,
Well, it took 6 months.
6 months planning, and who was in charge?
No, we both were.
We both did that, but actually, in fact, in retrospect, 6 months was just a little bit too short. We were pretty zealous on what we required. For instance, for the spares for the Rolls Royce.
We went off to a couple of collectors and so forth. But after the best offer we'd had to lend us all the spares that we'd want to take along for about 100,000 Rand, which is a strange way of lending things, Mike decided, well, we decided we'd go and look for another one.
The same model to get the spares, and we took all the parts from that car we took with us in the Hilux, in the Toyota Hilux.
We changed the method of springing and shock absorbing on the back suspension to a conventional shock absorber and a spring.
He put skid plates underneath the car to protect the underside of the car, and he put on
He elevated the car as well.
Bridgestone truck tires, which elevated the car.
And that literally was about it, because the car is so strong, the way it is built, it's literally built like a tank.
Then, at his suggestion, we took the Rolls Royce up the Sani Pass.
So you both had a chance to drive. Did you have to adapt your driving skills?
The Sani Pass part of it,
Roger did.
Roger drove the car up there. He wanted to test it out on the rough road between Winterton at high speed, which he did, and then up the Sani Pass, Jeanette as passenger, and I drove the Hilux.
I decided to run the car over the top of Lesotho because it's very typical of some of the worst roads you're going to see up in the north of Africa.
And what better way to start an adventure of a lifetime but with a toast?
And cheers.
Members of the local 4x4 club were out in force, curious to see a Rolls Royce in this part of the world and wondering at just what part of the Sani Pass it would come unstuck and why on earth it was there anyway. And when Jeanette revealed all by telling them exactly what they planned to do with the old girl, well, their expressions were priceless.
Remember the 3 minis went on, I believe we're going to put on truck tires, 3 plus the EPA.
And we would like to take our 27-year-old Rolls Royce from Cape Town to Cairo, Africa travel.
It has hydraulic rams with the 2 shocks on.
Then the next morning early we went up the pass.
No. It poured with rain that night. It poured. And
Yes,
the
that's
roads were just like rivers. And these chaps said, you're really going to need us today because there are parts where you're not going to get over.
Now the Sani Pass is really for 4-wheel drive only, but you had to have permission from the administrator to go up the Sani Pass other than in 4-wheel.
The Sani Pass is a mountainous route over the majestic Drakensberg that connects KwaZulu-Natal and Lesotho and is a notoriously dangerous road. There are many frightening stories of failed attempts at ascending the path, which is why there is strict control at the South African border as to which vehicles they allow through.
Okay, in terms of the Road Traffic Act, no vehicle that is not equipped with 4-wheel drive may be driven up the Sani Pass beyond the South African police post. except with prior approval of the administrator. Well, we've asked the administrator and he said, be my guest, go ahead.
Lo and behold, Sani Pass had deteriorated very, very badly. The local 4x4 club came out to support us, and they said, no ways, you're not going to do this. They sent 2 vehicles up with us, one of which got stuck.
Join us after the break when we find out whether the old lady, Silver Spirit, can handle one of the most treacherous passes in Africa, or just becomes another wannabe.
The big 4x4 got stuck and we went past with a Rolls Royce.
And not only that, with these hairpin bends and the long wheelbase of the rolls, you're going to have to go up and back and up and back and up and then get up like that. We never did that once. We just went round and round and round.
If the Rolls could handle these roads with such grace and ease, then it was more than ready to take on the 17,800-kilometre expedition across Africa to its original home, London. For Mike and Jeanette, their dream was becoming a reality.
Absolutely magic. I would love to do it again.
When we got to the top of Sani Pass, I was very happy because having accomplished that, it gave us the opportunity to make a couple of small modifications before we left, but it passed the test, which is what that was about.
As someone who operates the pass daily, I didn't think you could do it, and I'm well impressed.
Well,
I'd like to say that
it was nice to have you as a backup.
your sense of adventure and your spirit that you and Jeanette have brought into this part of the world is fantastic.
Great.
And I think if you can make this today, there's no road in Africa that you can't tackle.
Thank you very much, Rob.
Fantastic.
Cheers.
Cheers.
To the highest pub in Africa.
And to the rest of your journey as well.
So there it was, from the highest pub in Africa to the heart of the mother city, Cape Town, for Mike and Jeanette's big and first of many send-offs. The South African Rolls-Royce Club turned out in true style to bid them bon voyage, and as the celebrations continued, there was more than one curious onlooker, trying to find out what the fuss was all about.
The Silver Spirit adventure has got a lot to do with what's on the top of their heads as well as the car they're driving. They are absolutely crazy.
How were you both feeling at the big farewell in Cape Town?
Terribly excited.
The setting was beautiful. It was just a wonderful day. We flew down with one Tom. And then we sent the Rolls-Royce down with Roger, and it was on display for a week at the waterfront. So we had an early breakfast. We had a lovely Cape Malay band, I suppose.
It was great, with
It was
banjos
really
and
good.
sort of real jazz
Yeah,
band.
very nice. And then all the Rolls-Royce cars gathered and other cars. And it was a terrific send-off.
See what we've got going. What's this about? Down upstaiing?
That's where we're going to stop there.
We are ready to navigate. We're on our way to Egypt. Here we go.
Can we stop at Matjesfontein there?
Matjesfontein.
And then we set off at about 11 o'clock, is that right? To Stellenbosch, followed by all these cars.
all these Rolls Royces followed us.
And then we went
out
to a lovely wine
and most of them
estate.
came for lunch. And that was put on by Stormhook Wines. All the wine flowed like water. Oh, and then started with shrimps and prawns, and it just went on and on.
We'd like to ask Mike and Jeanette to take the best wishes of the people of South Africa. I have letters here signed by Helen Ziller to the Mayor of Cairo. If I can ask you to take these for South Africa.
What a
Thank you.
pleasure. We'd love to do it.
And Xenia is going to present these, which are garments which are going to help them get all the way there. Interestingly enough, they're not only going to have garments which will help them get there, but they're going to have transponders in the cars, so that we'll be able to track to make sure they're going in the right direction. So,
How can we get lost with garments?
Thank you so much.
We'll know where we are.
And one of the many enjoyable and memorable moments they were to have over the next few days as their approaching adventure was about to take them away from their home, their family and friends and their country for the next 60 days or so. And while the Rolls was consuming petrol at a rapid rate, Mike and Jeanette were doing their very best to keep up with it. One for the road, perhaps?
May you drive in luxury and in peace.
When you're heading off on an adventure of a lifetime, it really does help to know in which direction you need to go.
Our next stop was at Mikey's Fontaine. You must say Mikey's Fontaine. Mikey's.
Munchies.
And there we were welcomed with open arms by
David Rawdon. David Rawdon owns the whole of Mikey's Fontaine.
Mikey's.
Mikey's
Say
Fontaine.
Mikey's. You're Mike. Mikey's. Yeah.
And he, of course, has the hotel there, as everything.
I'll bet my money on a bobtail nag. Somebody bet on the bay. To Camptown ladies sing this song. Doo-dah, doo-dah. To Camptown racetrack farmers on.
And he happens to have a Rolls-Royce Silver Shadow. So that was parked outside the hotel, and the two cars met.
And we put the two cars together, so
Now, David's
the two
an old
spirits
friend.
of ecstasies got together like that. And he keeps on saying, and now it's showtime, in this deep, sort of Louis Armstrong type voice.
Yes, the honeymoon lady.
No, it's not honeymoon. Oh, he was great, he was really good. And he could play piano.
How many kilometres had you travelled up until this point? Not that many.
We did a very fast start. I mean, the first day was 87 kilometres. Jeanette, we're first going to Johannesburg, our hometown, then Nairobi.
350 miles.
Yes. Nairobi, 3,200 miles.
Miles.
Cairo, 5,400 miles. And then London, our final destination.
Oh, boy.
Joburg, Nairobi, Cairo, London.
That's a long,
That's a long
way.
A long way to go.
One of Mike's interests is old graveyards, and just a few kilometres to the west of the village lies the Mikey's Fontaine Cemetery. This is the final resting place of Jimmy Logan, the colourful Scotsman who put Mikey's Fontaine on the map. Mikey's Fontaine has the dubious reputation of being one of the most haunted towns in South Africa. The most famous burial site in this infamous graveyard is that of Major General Andrew Warhope, the commander of the Highland Brigade, who was killed in the early stages of the Battle of Marcasfontein back in 1899. Legend has it that the ghost of a wounded British soldier with his arm in a sling and a bloody bandage around his head stands at the turnoff to the memorial cemetery.
So your stop after Mikey's Fontaine?
Was on to Kimberley, where we met up with the original owner of the car. There's only been two owners. Mark Harding is the original, and we had him round to the Kimberley Club, which was very nice. Can I have another drink, please? Thank you. Oh, this is the most magic bar. The history. This is Sir Ernest Oppenheimer, the original.
Mark, you bought this car new from Grosvenor Motors.
That's right.
Could you mind telling me how much you paid for it? Is that the correct price?
167,500.
I paid a bit more than that.
It was nice meeting the original owner, and he wished us well. And then we were on our way back to Joburg because we had to be back here at 3 o'clock for the party or the send-off from Johannesburg, which was at the Piazza Hotel at Monte Cassino. They let all the Rolls Royces park there and all the vintage cars. And all of the cars had the same number plate on, which said Bon Voyage, Mike and Jeanette, on all the motor cars. And it was so lovely to see that.
Mike, what do you remember about the send-off in Joburg?
There was some very nice Stormwick wine there that I enjoyed.
I believe you drank all the wine down in Cape Town.
I just wish all of you could be with us, and I know you will be in spirit. And spirit is the word, and thank you, Frank, for Stormwick.
We were on our way finally. We'd said all our farewells, had two tremendous send-offs, and at long last we were on our way.
So with Jeanette behind the wheel, all the sponsors thanked, the last toast drunk, well, for now anyway, and the final farewell celebration enjoyed, it was finally time to hit the road, all 17,800 kilometres of it. Which way to go, though, seemed to be an issue. What lies ahead for Mike and Jeanette, our two silver-haired adventurers, is undiscovered territory and a journey of a lifetime. Join us next time on Silver Spirit as Mike and Jeanette come face to face with the King of the Jungle. Join Mike and Jeanette later in the episode when they come across the King of the Jungle. 60 days, 12 countries, 17,800 kilometres, two delightful silver-haired oldies in a silver Rolls Royce. The journey of the Silver Spirit from Cape Town to Cairo and on to London.
Okay, so where to after Johannesburg?
Well, it was on to Botswana.
Jeanette takes the driver's seat while Mike records the day's events in his journal. Roger Pierce, team leader, has brought them roughly 400 kilometres so far, and now it's time for them to get into gear as they're about to experience the first of many African border posts. Let's face it, this is the part most of us dread, but because of experience and good planning, things go smoothly at the South African side of the border for the team, and it's just a matter of minutes before they've crossed over into Martinsdrift, Botswana. And then a matter of seconds before tempers begin to flare at the gridlock created by long-haul trucks. Even Jeanette tries her hand at directing traffic.
And that, I think, was our longest day, one of our longest days, because we got there just as it was getting dark.
Did you go through Botswana fairly quickly?
Yes.
We only stayed
stayed
one
one
night.
night.
Yeah.
And it was literally have a gin and tonic, have dinner, go to sleep.
Was malaria ever a concern?
We all took tablets.
Okay.
Yes, we all were prepared for that.
And the tablets are now so sophisticated nowadays that we only had to take one tablet the same night every week, once a week.
Our whole crew was
on the same thing. So we all.
I thought perhaps the GNTs were just a backup plan.
Oh yes, definitely. You've got to have quinine, with a little bit of gin in it.
Cheers.
What kind of speed were you doing the whole way? Were you keeping to the speed limits?
We were moving then.
Were you?
On the good roads. We were getting up to 150 kilometres an hour.
And
watching
we've got
out for
him
the speed cops.
on camera at 160.
Yeah.
But then that's the fault of the lead vehicle. You see, we had to keep up with him.
But after Martin's Drift, and especially after Salibi Piqui, that's where we was most surprised at the potholes.
Suddenly, Mike and Jeanette find themselves having to solve the case of the vanishing hubcap. Where could it be? Must be here somewhere. Nope. Ah, let me try the long grass. How strange. Ah, found one. Pity it's not ours.
But that was where we lost our first hubcap.
And we found
We
a
did.
Mercedes one.
We found the wrong type.
What else happened in Botswana? Any wildlife?
Yes.
You-
Yes.
Saw the most beautiful male elephant all alone, and we stopped. The lead vehicle gave us a warning that we were coming, and he was just on the side of the road. And Koos got out and actually filmed him, and he just picked up his trumpet like this and went, wow, and then turned his back and walked away. It was
He walked
the
just
most
behind the car, and we've got that
magnificent shot.
on video.
Really, it's very good.
Yeah.
I'm sure you'll see it.
All it takes is one heart-stopping moment like this to make the whole adventure worthwhile.
Jeanette, I'd like to ask you, how did you meet Mike?
We lived in the same block of flats in Summerstrand and Port Elizabeth. And he'd known me for about, we'd seen each other in the elevator, going up and down. And he was a really St. Andrews snob, you know. Oh, God. Anyhow, the St. Andrews boy, I was standing on the balcony one day and looking down. He was dragging a lalo behind him. And I just looked at this. I said, that is my man. And he didn't stand a chance after that.
Mike, talk us through the next leg of the journey, Botswana to?
Zambia.
We went on the Kazungulu ferry to Zambia. We came across, long before we got to the ferry, lorries parked on the side of the road. And we
About 4
drove right to the
kilometres.
front, and we were virtually the only two cars.
Kazungula is a tiny border town. It is situated south of Zambia.
But it's a big river. And Chobe and Zambezi joining just here.
Kazungula lies to the north of the Zambezi River, about 70 kilometres west of Livingstone. The Kazungula ferry is one of the largest ferries in the region, with a capacity of 70 tonnes. It is here where 4 countries meet: Zambia, Namibia, Botswana and Zimbabwe.
Now, the ferry could take 2 cars and 1 lorry. So we drove straight onto the ferry, the ramp, and on we were, and then the truck came behind us, and that was the load. And the truck driver told us that he'd been waiting there for 2.5 weeks.
That's right, these poor truck drivers had been waiting 2.5 weeks, as Mike said, to get across, while it takes the team just a few minutes to get both vehicles loaded onto the ferry. The crossing to Kasane is quick as the river is only 400 metres wide, and then it's back on dry ground for the team. Join us after the break to find out more about the exciting Zambian leg of the journey, and can Mike negotiate his way around a rather large hole in the road?
Any hiccups thus far with the car by the time you got to Livingston?
No.
It's truly an amazing motor car.
Smooth sailing?
Smooth sailing until then.
Just a couple of hubcaps.
Yeah, that's all.
When you get to about 73 or 75, you can't see very well. There's a large hole in the road, about a K ahead of you.
A big hole in the road.
That's the one. When you get to about 73 or 75, you can't see very well. There's a large hole in the road, about a K ahead of you.
A big hole in the road.
That's the one.
Another bump.
Oh, let's start again. Don't look too much away.
Smooth sailing?
Smooth sailing until then.
I think that poor Rolls Royce hit every pothole between Cape Town and Cairo because nobody saw them coming, you see.
That's easy to say when you're driving a 4x4 though. Mike and Jeanette show off their best moves in an effort to keep up. But in the end, it turns out to be a lot easier to drive off the road entirely.
And then on to Livingston, presumably?
Yes, that was great. And we were the guests of Sun International. And we actually stayed at the Zambezi Sun because the Royal Livingston was full. But we went over there to have drinks and to be introduced to the staff because we had their stickers on the backup vehicle as well. The Sun International stickers, and it had Royal Livingston and Zambezi Sun. Sorry. And Michael and I had 2 suites together. He had his bathroom and I had my bathroom. It was absolutely lovely.
That was one of
They really spoilt us.
And we really enjoyed it, and we looked at the Vic Falls again, and it was lovely.
There is nothing like a bit of well-deserved luxury when you've been stuck behind the wheel for hours navigating the treacherous roads of Africa.
Gooseberry. Have a gooseberry, it'll wake you up.
The Zambezi Sun has all the sophistication and charm that you'd want in a hotel. But no trip to Zambia would be complete without a glimpse of one of the 7 natural wonders of the world, the mighty Victoria Falls.
And it is idyllic. It really is absolutely beautiful.
In Zambia, the falls are known as Musiwatunya, or the smoke that thunders, and Mike and Jeanette make an exciting detour over the bridge to soak it all in. White fluffy clouds and gorgeous blue African skies accompany them on their journey, as well as the smell of the brown earth and glorious sunshine. This is Africa in all her glory.
You're on the road again, you're leaving Livingston, you're leaving Zambia, and you're heading into...
Tanzania. Some people say Tanzania, some people say Tanzania.
The Rolls Royce is very heavy on fuel consumption. It uses 20 litres per 100 kilometres in normal conditions. In actual fact, if you've got nice tarred roads, you can get down to 17, 18 litres per 100 kilometres. But in the real rough conditions, it goes up to 25 litres. So 1 litre only gets you 4 kilometres in the worst conditions.
Cairo, that's Captain's Africa, Cairo.
I have a special offer on Miller's Draft. Any takers?
Yes!
And going around the next corner into the unknown is a wonderful thing for anybody. That's why I love it so much, you know, and particularly Africa.
It's time to make a quick stop for some good old-fashioned pot course. That's an Afrikaans phrase that South Africans love using to describe food that you've packed for a long road trip. 5,000 kilometers later, this is all the old lady has to show for herself, some beautiful winged butterflies. It is here in Tanzania where you'll find Africa's highest peak, Mount Kilimanjaro, and Africa's largest lake, Lake Victoria. It's also home to the well-known Serengeti National Park and Africa's Eden, the Ngorongoro crater. Luckily for Mike, there's not a traffic cop in sight. And Jeanette still seems to be having a jolly old time.
Changes of perceptions of Africa along the way, anything? You're just loving it.
No, we were really enjoying it because we love game reserves and going and seeing all this game. The Great North Road actually goes through this huge game reserve, just like the Kruger Park. And it really was very worthwhile. We saw 2 lions, male and female, and the lead vehicle dashed past them, never saw them. But luckily we had the paramedic and he saw them straight away, and we stopped and we radioed to the lead vehicle to come back. And every time we put our foot on the accelerator, it was lovely. So there I was going, doo 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 doo. It was great.
Did you ever feel like you were following in the great adventurer's footsteps, like the
Yes,
Livingstons?
like when we started off at Kimberley and having stayed in Cecil John Rhodes's room at the Kimberley Club, that was the start. And also at the Lord Milliner at Mikey'sfontein, because you must remember that Mikey'sfontein had how many 10,000 people living there at the turn of the century, which were mainly the British soldiers. That's where they were encamped. And now there are only 300 inhabitants. Now, you see, that's how it all started, because, yes, we are following in the footsteps of the days of the Boer War, and then going and staying in Cecil John Rhodes's room, and then going to these magic places like Butinondo, and going to the Royal Livingston. You know, those, and Cecil John Rhodes is just right through Africa, really.
I asked Mike what people thought when he came up with the idea to do the trip.
In the very beginning, a lot of people said, that's a bad idea. A Rolls Royce is meant for luxury driving around the tar roads of England. I wanted to prove something, and I wanted to prove that it's not just a luxury car. And as acknowledged by many, at that time anyway, of this model, the best car in the world. I wanted to prove not only it's the best car in the world, but it's a robust, resilient car that can take the rough roads of Africa.
The Rolls, like its Silverhead owners, has really lived up to its reputation so far. As up to now, over 6,000 kilometres into the trip, the only thing that has gone wrong is losing a hubcap. Pretty good going for an old girl.
And then when we got through there, we stayed in a fantastic place called Butinondo. It was a formidable place. It was a safari camp right in the middle of granite hills, and the huts were built on the granite. Wow, just look at this. This is something else. Oh my goodness. Look at that view. Oh, it's beautiful.
Very beautiful.
The bath was built in the granite. If I can sit down, but I'll have a try. This is the bath. Oh, it's lovely. And the toilet was open, and you just looked the whole 180 degrees around you while you were sitting on the toilet. Gorgeous. What a view to have a poo. Look at the toilet roll. A little tap. This is the best water we're going to get. lovely drinking water. It was just so beautiful. It was lovely. Nice. Nice and soft. In the visitor's book, after having spent a night there, I said, Muti is medicine, and Nondo must be the best in the world.
Where to now from Tanzania?
Well, from Tanzania, we're on our way to Kenya, or whatever you'd like to say. People call it anything nowadays.
In fact, the correct pronunciation is Kenya, according to local tradition, and its capital, Nairobi, is popularly known as the Green City in the Sun. Along the way, the sights, sounds and smells of a new exciting African country surround the Silver Spirit team. And Mike and Jeanette discover that Kenya has a real vibe about it. The Kenyans are incredibly friendly to our Silver Spirit adventurers and are completely bowled over by the Rolls-Royce too.
This one's strong.
Very strong. Like Land Rover body.
Yeah, it's a Land Rover. We even see the rim covers in the tires.
Lost them. Photos. That one and that one.
This is German.
Gone. Other sides.
As usual, the old lady steals the show. After all, she has reached superstar status on this trip, at least in the eyes of her loving owners. And all this travelling is thirsty work, so it's time to top up the tank and hand over the Kenyan shillings. Then things almost get a little tense when Roger politely refuses to give a local some money.
I'm going to remember you. You are sir. I'm going to remember you. No. No. I'm not giving you any money, okay?
Well, maybe not so politely.
In Kenya, we spend a little while doing our first service to the Hilux and just preparing for the rest of the way up Africa.
We had to do the service for the Hilux because it was a new car and it had done now 10,000 kilometers. So we went to the Toyota agents and all they did was clean the filters. And that's about all really, and changed the oil and greased it. We also took the Rolls-Royce to
Checkered flag.
The checkered flag. Some, can I say, veteran car enthusiasts who gave it a good going over and really did a good service on that for us at the same time. And they'd never charged us a thing.
They wouldn't charge us. They said it was an honour to work on the Rolls.
They're only about 20% worn, 10% worn. Pretty good.
The car's in very good condition, surprisingly, for what it went through. We've got a few minor problems. The exhaust mountings are broken. Doing an all service with a bent wheel, which we're straightening. The skid plate is bent. We're repairing that. Everything else is in good nick. Suspension, shocks, tyres. Heading in the right,
The team is north of Nairobi now at the Baden Powell Cemetery, where they decide to pay respects to the world-famous founder of the Scouts. He's buried next to his wife, whose body was flown from England to lie beside him, and what a glorious place to spend eternity. Mike was an avid scout himself at 12, whilst Jeanette was a Girl Guides Commissioner over 40 years ago. Is that Jeanette taking the oath again? If there's one thing the Van Ginkels can't resist, it's anything to do with aeroplanes and flying. So they make a stop just north of Nairobi at a private aerodrome. I'm I'm sure Mike could show this youngster a few tricks with over 50 years of flying experience under his belt. Mike is in his element. But they must press on, as the team is not far from the equator now. What a joy to have made it this far. And to prove that they really are at the equator, a local shows them that when you're on the south side of the world, the water moves clockwise, whereas just a 20-meter hop northways makes the water go anti-clockwise. Two weeks on the road, 7,000 kilometers later, the roll's proving to be a real trooper, and most importantly, everyone's sanity intact. Now that's something worth celebrating. Join us next week when Mike and Jeanette's adventures in Kenya continue as they battle through some of the toughest roads in northern Kenya.